We now transfer the action to the Pyrenees, this beautiful range of mountains which separate France from Spain. The Spanish are here, the French are here, there's thousands of people here as we now head for the Plateau de Baille. The campers have been coming all week here as they now fill the whole plateau. This is indeed a 70-kilometre area of ski slopes. And we brought the television for the crowds as well, because now they're expecting a great battle. Yes, welcome back to our live coverage here on Versus everyone. We are set for another big day today. Phil Liggett with Paul Sherwin. Well, we've always said that this would be a battle of between 8 or 10 riders, and even after the time trial yesterday, we've no reason to change our minds. But Paul, two teams particularly significant. They've got two men can win, Discovery and of course Astana.
Yeah, it's always been, I think, in the back of the mind of riders from Discovery Channel that Levi Leipheimer was the predetermined leader of the squad. But there are two riders, I feel, on that squad who've actually got a wild card to play themselves. Alberto Contador is a phenomenal climber and rode a very good individual time trial yesterday. And of course, let's not forget Jaroslav Popovic, who many people think have got a great future ahead of him. Team Astana, where we'd actually sort of decided that Alexander Vinokourov was out of this race after the Alps. Well, yesterday he banged on the team table to say, I'm back. But he's got a co-leader in the shape of Andreas Kloden.
So there's so many combinations that these teams can still play. But the one man who is really doing a great job at the time trial, which he's never done before, is, of course, Michael Rasmussen. He kept the yellow jersey for a 6th day. Now, Paul, he knows he can't time trial as well as the others. He has got to attack, hasn't he?
Well, despite riding a great time trial yesterday, Phil, he knows he needs to get time if he wants to win the Tour de France. He lost 1 minute and 41 seconds there to Cadell Evans, who's now only a minute behind. And look at how much time he lost to Alexander Vinokourov, 2 minutes and 55 seconds. I think before we get up to the final time trial, Michael Rasmussen has to have at least 4 minutes in the bag over everybody.
Well, let's first of all, before we join the live action, have a look back to early today. The rollout, 165 riders. Ventoso, who had the injured wrist, he didn't start today. The first climb, a second category climb at the San Seré, and this was an interesting sprint. Although the winner here was David De La Fuente in the yellow, one Sola, who won in Briançon, and Jaroslav Popovic battling out for the points. Sola getting 9, Popovic getting 8, and as a result of that, we have now a joint leader in the King of the Mountains. And in fact, Rasmussen, Paul, as we expect, not choosing at the moment to defend his polka dot jersey.
Well, that was, after all, a second category climb, but it does for Juan Mauricio Soler bring him up to exactly the same points as Michael Rasmussen. And of course, watch out for Jaroslav Popovic, who moves up into 3rd place in that competition. And I wonder that now that Michael Rasmussen is going to decide to aim for the yellow jersey, if he may well putting his chance of winning the King of the Mountains title for a 3rd year in succession in jeopardy.
Well, it might be the case. If you've won it twice, there's not so much reward in 3 times, not when you've got the yellow on your back. So his tactics are bound to change today. Although we're watching here, there is a breakaway clear of 5 riders just now. There's an awful lot of work being done by the chase behind. And Rabobank have found themselves some allies in Sonia Duval today. They've also shared in the chase. Very early on today, Rasmussen got into a breakaway group, and it forced the team of Cadell Evans to work very hard to bring it back. So there's the situation. You're right up to date with us now. We are about 25 kilometers from the start of the slopes of the first big climb of the day, the Porte de Paillere, which will take us over the Or category climb. There's plenty of action to come here. All of the contenders at the moment are together. Vinokourov has forced his way back into the Tour de France this year. We're now on our first Pyrenean stage, and this is the Tour this week. It is a viciously hard section of the route for the next 3 days, interrupted by 1 rest day. There's the temperature, 71 degrees. It's struggling to reach that at the moment. Partly cloudy, but the sun is beginning to peek through on the top of the plateau. I can tell you, it was very foggy at 7 o'clock here this morning. Well, the rider's heading up here a couple of hours away. Here's the breakaway, Jose Ivan Gutierrez, the only man in the break who's ridden the Tour de France before. He's best placed overall. 15 minutes off the yellow jersey, so for a while they might stay away. They've got a nice lead. They've been over 11, but they're currently coming down now as the chase has started. and the other 4 or 5 riders are all first-timers. We put our pulse monitors on Carlos Barredo today. That was a good choice because he is actually in the breakaway, so we should keep an eye on his heartbeat. So there's a Bogart and Rolf Grabsch. I must say there is a tremendous amount of support on the climb up to the finish in the Côte de Bay, which is where we are, for T-Mobile riders. There are literally hundreds of supporters, and Bogart is one of the men that they're going to support as they come up.
Well, making their way through these gorges, they are a magnificent backdrop for the race that we're seeing here this afternoon. But I think, Phil, a lot of riders are very worried about the Porte de Paillere. But not only the 16.8 kilometers climb up to the summit at an average gradient of 7.2%, it's actually the descent into Aix-les-Thermes as well, which is a very nasty and dangerous descent. And all of these riders realize that. Many of them have ridden this course before. And I think that will be in the back of the minds of the riders in the main field, because I'm sure Alexander Vinokourov will try and take advantage of his good performance yesterday.
I'm sure he will, Paul. Well, the river running alongside the leaders here is the River Aude. It's 220 kilometers long. Down deep in the valley there, I can tell you that the leaders have just passed the sign which says 18 kilometers to the top of the Porte de Paillere. So they've started the climb, while the Peloton are going to be running for about another 6.5 minutes, but they are coming up. There's a little look at the lower slopes of the Porte de Paillere as the riders start to move onto the climb now, but it's a long way to the top, over 10 miles uphill as we head up towards the Haut category, or outside category, red dot there, and then we'll cross to the next one, which is the finish on the Plateau de Bay. All right, don't forget, Saab Watch and Win sweepstakes. Over you go to versus.com/fly to the finish. And to play the game, you need the keyword, which is Pyrenees. Well, they should have said Pyrenees, but it is Pyrenees. That's the keyword. There it is. Enjoy the game. These boys aren't enjoying this game right now, unless they're climbers, of course, and they'll relish the next few kilometers. Because sitting at the back here, we're looking at the Astana rider in the breakaway, and this is Antonio Colom. Now, just who is the leader of the Astana team? Is it Alexander Vinokourov, or is it Andreas Klöden? So there they are. They're the riders now who are defending for Iban Mayo, who slipped a little bit and dropped down to 12th from 3rd after his bad time trial. He's going to try and make amends today. That's apparent now. Watch out for him to attack today. He's looking for the win. Well, that was a bit early to see Segman slip away, Paul.
It certainly was, but in fact, at the front of the group as well, it's a bit early to see the hostilities here. You've got the Liquigas rider who's suffering at the back. This is Kuczynski. Yep. He's alongside Antonio Colom. And Carlos Barredo is the man who's seen the danger of splitting so early on, and he's jumped straight across the gap.
Well, Kuczynski's doing well to hang on. I thought he was going to go right out at the outset of this, but no, Antonio Colom is just in front of him. And the trouble is always being caused by Chiruka. He has the red number on his back, red for danger perhaps, number 78, and also the most experienced rider in the breakaway. In the black is Jose Ivan Gutierrez.
But one of the riders, like many of the riders in the main field, who's got bandages on his body. There have been so many crashes. We're still looking at 13 kilometers to go to the summit of the Porte de Paillere. It's a long climb, but it's made more difficult by the fact that it peaks out at just over 2,000 meters in altitude. I wonder if Kuczynski is saying to himself, oh, what am I doing here this afternoon? Why did I do this? But he found himself in a much larger breakaway group that actually got weeded down to these 6 men.
At least he looks like Lance Armstrong there, Paul, with that low cadence, or high cadence and low gear he's pedaling. Trying to save his energy here because he knows he's not going to make it to the top with this group, but he wants to make sure he can make it to the finish with any groups that pick him up. So he's riding sensibly in the low gears. Gutierrez just about keeping a lasso around Chiruka rather, up there, because that guy's anxious to get on with it. Now, Gutierrez might well say to him, look, It's an awful long way. These climbs hurt. Just take it easy. Save
Rumour box. There's a new story every day coming clear. And I think it would be great to see Axel Merckx pass on some of his advice and some of his experience to some of the younger riders. The philosophy about the team. Now, this is a big surprise because we're looking here at Felix Cardenas, who a couple of years ago won himself a stage in the Pyrenees to the Plateau de Bonastre. I don't think that's going to happen today.
You don't expect to see climbers of his quality, a former king of the mountains in the Tour of Spain, to be dangling off the back, but it is, and this is Bogart too. A lot of support for him on the last climb today.
Well, I did tell him a couple of days ago that that wasn't a great move. A little bit of energy you waste. Afternoon.
Well, they're splitting up, and I didn't expect some of those names to drop back. I also saw Anthony Charteau, the winner of the Tour de Langkawi, slipping back to Freddie Agricole, rider in that green jersey. These are the leaders. They cannot contain the riders from Euskaltel Euskadi today, because they're being drawn like a magnet to where they live. And now this is Perez who's gone now. Jaruka tried it. Perez is now moved off to see if he can make any progress.
Well, these guys know that when they get to the Plateau de Bay, the slopes of the climb will be orange, with orange T-shirts supporting the team, which is regarded as being the Basque team, and they are riding into not very much, not too far away from the Basque land.
All of the riders in the top of the classification, they're still based in that big pack, which is thinned out dramatically, but they're sitting there near the front, behind the riders in the yellow jerseys who are setting the pace. Nobody has made an aggressive move from the peloton yet,
because they can't find a common rhythm. But fortunately, as they get closer to the summit, they're still there, still in contact. But I'm sure they'll have a bit of a laugh about this tonight at the dinner table.
Well, there might still be a way the way they're climbing. And look at this now, just dropping away off the back. De La Fuente's gone, and now it looks as though Vinokourov, he's not panicking, but he looks to me as though he is losing a few meters. The elastic has started to stretch here. Well, he lifts the pace a bit. He's got a teammate with him.
And he's got David de la Fuente just behind him there as well. The teammate who's dropped back to help him is Daniel Navarro. He's a Spanish rider on the squad. It's not surprising, really, because yesterday Alexander Vinokourov gave a phenomenal demonstration in the individual time trial. And maybe it's one of those things, Phil, where he's concentrated on his time trialing in the last couple of months to get himself ready for the Tour de France, and all of a sudden he spent too much energy yesterday. He's going to have to try and ride himself back into this race, but he is a rider of experience and class, and he won't give up. And there is a nasty climb, a nasty descent after this climb, which he could use to catch back up.
Well, the rider with him isn't going to be a lot of help, quite honestly. He's not very strong, Daniel Navarro. The rider in front is Igor Martinez, who's also coming back, and he's a strong climber. And all this is being done by Britain's David Miller, getting rid of some of the big names here. You can see the wind. It's not so bad on this col, gentle from the left, but it is very, very strong on top of the Plateau de Bay.
Well, looking back there in 8th or 9th position, you can see George Hincapie in the red, white and blue. He's riding exceptionally well. It's important for Team Discovery Channel. You talked a little earlier, Phil, about the team classification, and yes, Astana did take the lead in the team classification yesterday. That's why they've got the yellow numbers on, but only by 54 seconds from Team Discovery Channel. And Team Discovery Channel have got a lot of cards to play here this afternoon, especially if Big George is still there to help Alberto Contador, Levi Leipheimer and Jaroslav Popovic.
Well, this is proving to be, we don't talk a lot about the team race, but it's been a very close battle between four teams the whole stretch since we left London. Astana were the team leaders for the first few days, and they got it back yesterday in the time trial.
Well, I shouldn't have said Jaroslav Popovic, because Race Radio just crackled with the name of Popovic, struggling at the back of the group.
There's a few riders in trouble on this climb, I think. Big names are beginning to struggle right now. 1 kilometre to go to the summit now. Which one of these will get it? My money will go on number 78, Armit Cheruka. This is still the man who is ahead. This will be Kaczynski. No, he's not ahead anymore. They've just gone over the top of him. He's just about got room to get round that corner. That was a nasty thing to do. That's the steepest way around the bend. Thomas Dekker brings the field around. Good tempo riding. There is only 4 riders in front now, so a 5th place sprint here. And the polka dot jersey being worn. Now Cheruka is sitting in 12th place after his escapade the other day, and he gets quite a number of points here at the top.
20 points he could get at the top, and that would catapult him right up into 4th position in that competition. And let's not forget, it's double points on the final climb of the day, so there's a nice 40 points at store for the first rider who gets to the summit of the Plateau de Bay.
Which wouldn't give him the lead tonight, but will put him in a great place for taking it tomorrow if he's got the legs left. But right now it is Juan Soler who is looking to become the outright leader in the King of the Mountains, and that means Rasmussen loses that jersey tonight, because Soler is right there, about 4 men down behind the yellow jersey, and we'll see if he goes for the points.
Well, Team Rabobank are a team transformed and transcending themselves because of the yellow jersey in their squad. Thomas Dekker here is riding the best that I've ever seen him ride, Phil, as the man in second place as well, Michael Bogard. He's never really been a great mountain climber. He's a great one-day classics rider, but here he too knows it is important for him to be in presence and in contact with the race leader, Michael Rasmussen.
Camera's gone back a little way down the road with Alexander Vinokourov, who knows now he's just got to hope he can get back into this race. The bye-bye isn't too encouraging, though, is it? I think he's saying to us he's out for the day here.
I think he just wants to be left alone to suffer in silence. No rider going through this kind of purgatory wants it to be completely and utterly recorded by the press all around the world. And for Alexander Vinokourov, I think he would feel a lot more comfortable, Phil, suffering in silence.
Well, as the race up towards the summit now, this has been a very steep and difficult climb, eliminating rider after rider with just tempo riding. And there he goes, the boy. It's in fact Ruben Perez who's going to go over first. And it looks as though his teammate is not going to challenge him, Taruka. They deservedly go over the top first and second. And a good ride by Antonio Colom as well. Now they're looking for paper to stuff up their jerseys to keep out the chill wind on the descent.
Well, I tell you one thing, Phil, you better fasten your seatbelt now, because the early part of this descent is fairly fast and not technical at all. But once we get down towards the outskirts of Aix-les-Thermes, it is a very scary descent. And I remember in the history of the past Tour de France's in this area, we've seen some pretty nasty accidents on the downhill.
And the peloton are just over a kilometre back of those leading 4 riders now. As we again look at riders in trouble, this will be Dmitry Fofanov. Now he's also dropped off the back. At 50 kilometres to go to the summit now, you can count them all. And this rider from CSC here is Indigo Cuesta, as he also is normally a good climber. He's lost. One by one they're being dispatched. There is no longer even 24 riders in the group. And we're coming up here on Mayo. I think that's Mayo, isn't it?
Well, I thought it was, but it isn't, fortunately. It is Mayo. He is the man who's come backwards, and the man who David Miller completely and utterly assassinated himself for. And now Iban Mayo is having a hard time. But look at this, your man,
this is what he
Maurizio
wants.
Soler, is going.
And all he needs is this sprint to take the lead in that jersey he's wearing on loan from Rasmussen. And he did this in the Alps. He got this incredible turn of speed. He crawls all over his bicycle. He's not really a very experienced cyclist, but he certainly can show boys in the Tour de France how it's done in the mountains. His first tour as well. Look at him working the gears there. Looks over his shoulder. He can take it easy now.
Well, he can take it easy. Just needs. Let's not forget, this is his first ever crack at the Tour de France, and I don't think Team Saunier Duval are going to be very happy this evening, because Iban Mayo, who got his team on the front to do all of the pacemaking, has gone pop.
And trying now just to hold on to the tail of them. He will get back on the descent and he might recover. But just looking down, there's been no reaction there from Thomas Dekker or Michael Bogart. So this gets rid of the polka dot jersey off the shoulders of Michael Rasmussen, who has to concentrate on winning the Tour de France just now. Soler sits there in 22nd place today. But this rider isn't thinking of that position. He's now got himself the real lead in the King of the Mountains.
This guy did not start riding a bike until he was 17 years of age. He went out to see a local bike race in the area where he's from, of Boyacá in Colombia, and thought, I like this, I'll try this. And a couple of years later, they came back and won the Tour of Boyacá. And now he is the outright leader of the King of the Mountains, Phil, in the Tour de France.
Well done to Juan Mauricio Soler. So the peloton now, what's left of the peloton, isn't it a small group? Quick count, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. About 19 or 20 riders have gone over in this group together. and that is all. And they've got rid of a lot of big names at the same time now. Wait and see if, in fact, Vinokurov can get back. There's the climb result for you. 20 points for Perez, but watch out. The points gained there by Sola means this now. He's gone 10 points clear of Rasmussen in the King of the Mountains, but it's double points on the last climb of the day, so it could change yet, and it could go back to Michael Rasmussen here. I think they're building up for a major explosion when the road goes up in the last 16 kilometers of the day today. These four riders, of course, might even start to pull away for a few minutes over the field. They're only going down at 20 miles an hour, which is rather slow at the minute. 42 kilometers from the finish. We're looking at riders going over the top as well as the riders go down here at high speed. Four leaders, Paul, they might increase the lead for the next few minutes. Now, look at that, 90 kilometers an hour. So we're going down now at not far short of 60 miles an hour here.
56 miles an hour to be exact, and although Race Radio had said that Iban Mayo had made contact, you get a chance to see what contact is like on a descent. He hasn't quite got onto the slipstream of the riders in front of him, but he hasn't yet also reached the very technical part of this course, because once we get to about 5 kilometers to go to Aix-les-Thermes, it really is a very tricky descent that winds its way down the cliff into the center of town.
Well, look at this descent going down here now. He's got to get on quickly. Well, as we watch Iban Mayo here just about reach a flying peloton now. I don't know where we got that 20 mile an hour from as he now. Let's listen back in with Johan. What's he saying?
Okay. George and Popo are coming back, and they have bottles.
He's saying that Popo, he means Jaroslav Popovic, is coming back to the leading group and carrying bottles for the riders up front. The riders up front are Levi Leipheimer and Alberto Contador. So they know that Popovic is coming back and drinks are on the way. What a relief. They've just gone through Aix-les-Thermes. They've got about 13 kilometers of flat valley road now, no more buildings as they race towards the plateau. Then they turn left, and then the race to the finishing line is on. The leaders now going through the center, and that has grown tremendously, that peloton. But although we clock speeds of up to 80 and 90 kilometers an hour, they got back on, and that group now has got to be 45 strong.
It's a big group. They'll slow down now. They'll try and figure out what they're going to do for the approach to the climb. They're not too worried about the riders up front. Of the riders in the leading group of four, the best rider is Jose Ivan Gutierrez at 15 minutes and 21 seconds. But Carlos Barredo has made a phenomenal descent. He's taken all kinds of risks. He's at about 10 seconds. And the fact that they've pulled all the cars out of the gap there, you can see he's about to catch up.
Well, Barredo was with the group, so he must have come right back into it here. I'm very surprised he's getting back, but he's going to get back. So 5 riders should start the last climb. We're looking here at George Hincapie now, is also driving back into the group. Thomas Decker is there doing the hard work. Cole of Austria for Gerolsteiner. Bit of a runny nose for the yellow jersey, or was it sweat? But he hasn't put a wheel wrong yet today, Michael Rasmussen. And I'm sure, Paul, he's going to try and hurt these boys on the climb. Barredo got on. Well, that was a huge effort. A few deep breaths required now. 25 kilometers for the peloton, Paul. Nice to see Barredo's made it, and just in time to go off the back, I would think. He can't be far from turning left to go up the mountain.
Well, at least by making junction with that leading group of 4 riders, swelling the number to 5, he can have an easy ride down the valley road and doesn't have to worry too much about battering his head against the wind, because as you said earlier on a number of occasions, Phil, the wind at the summit of this climb is a very strong headwind, and that I think is going to create a lot of havoc once the riders try to attack this ascent.
The bunch has just started the climb. Immediately they started the climb, George Hincapie swung off the front. The gap now is opening up. Cerudo has gone away at the front. 2 minutes 16, Paul. Chiruka still away, and the peloton. I just got this feeling that Rasmussen is waiting for his moment now. He's still got 2 teammates. This is Michael Bogart.
He's going to use his teammates as much as possible. Look at the face of Denny Menchov there on the right-hand side, one of complete and utter concentration. Taruka in the leading group. He's battling with his machine, battling with his body. He's all over, and he's just cracked Gutierrez.
Well, listen, I don't think he has. Gutierrez has gone back in. It looked like he had. But Taruka, first-time tour rider, a young lad, is really wanting to win this stage, and he's going to get all the support. You won't believe the support for the Basque on this climb. They recognize him. It's largely Spanish speakers now. You can see on the road the name of Contador. That's the rider they think could win. And poor old Carlos Perrido, he just gets on. He's gone off, he's got back, now he's gone again.
Well, that's the tough thing about the Tour. You know, even if you're involved in a big battle on one of the stages, when you get to a mountaintop finish like this, Phil, you've still got to drag your body up to the summit to stay in the race. To do this again tomorrow, have a rest day, and do it again the day after that.
Well, 13.5 kilometers to go. These other two are giving as good as they get. They've sensed that Taruka is trying to beat them, so they're not helping him now. This is back in the main field here now, as we can. This is Paolo Savidelli here. I think he's just about dropped from the group. He's behind. He's riding there with Charlie Wagailis. Wagailis had stayed in the group for as long as possible to help Manuel Beltran. And Manuel Beltran has also been dropped for the group, and that's a bit of a surprise. They're saying from the race now is 2 minutes 5, accept 2:4, that's good enough for us. As we're now seeing one after one, this is Thomas Decker, done a brilliant job for his team now. And that's an acceleration by Antonio Colom now. So the young man, Ahmed Taruka, can he react? He's now getting a little bit of his own medicine. He's trying to get back on. Well, look at him. He's the slightest built rider in the whole of the peloton of the Tour de France. And you can hear from the side of the road where they're all shouting, venga, venga, venga. They want this man to go. Spain has turned out to support the Tour de France, and they're being treated to 3 Spanish riders battling it out at the front. Well, at the moment, we're operating 2 Tours de France here. These are the boys who want the stage win. They're too far behind to win the race. 2 minutes behind them are the guys, all of them except Vinokourov, who can win the race in Paris. These 3 are Spanish, a very special reason to be here at this point of the course, because over the top you can just see Spain. Well, you can see Spain. If you look the other way, you can also see the Principality of Andorra, and what that means is you're right in the heart of the Pyrenees. This young man, he gave so much this afternoon, but I think the power has disappeared because Antonio Colom has flown around the corner. But what's more important is if you look at the top, you've got 13 kilometers to go and you've got 1 minute 57, then all of a sudden you realize the main field is starting to pull their way back. Antonio Colom here, he got a little bit tired, I think, of Taruka throwing all those punches at him. So he decided to lift the acceleration for as long as he could hold it to crack him. Now he'll have settled back down into his own climbing rhythm. Back to the leaders with the yellow jersey. Look at the field behind now. Again, beginning to thin out here. Inigo Cuesta, Frank Schleck's group, by the way, has been dropped. Have you seen Carlos Sastre? No, Carlos Sastra's in this group here. He's very comfortable. Frank Schleck is in a group 5 minutes behind. While we look here at Jaroslav Popovic, Inigo Cuesta disappearing from the group. He was in the group of his leader, Carlos Sastre, but now his work has been done. And moving a little bit further up, we can see other riders disappearing from the group. This rider here is going to be Moses Duenas Nevado from Agri-Tubel, and also going backwards is Kirken. And that's more important. He sits in 10th place overall, and Kim has been riding extremely well. Champion of Luxembourg last year, but it looks as though he has unhooked from the train. This is becoming a very, very crucial group. Well, this is Christian van der Velde. That's Jens Voigt. Can you imagine that Jens Voigt is still in this group? No, it must be the second group, because we must have dropped down a group here. As they split away from the field here, they're all going off the back of the leading group now. So too is Carpets. They are all unhitching now, and it's under the pressure at the front of Rabobank. This is Menchov. Menchov, followed by Alberto Contador, followed by Michael Rasmussen. Andreas Kloden looking comfortable. Over to the left-hand side in the pink and black jersey is Cadell Evans. Michael Bogard has done his job, but he doesn't want to give up. He knows that if you're in the yellow jersey, you may need some assistance, so he's going to try and stay there for as long as possible. Now it's Chris Horner's turn to be unhitched. Chris Horner is showing signs of cracking as we go through the field here. Mayo again, who got back on the descent, is not coming up with the goods at the most crucial stage of the day. Each and every one of the riders are now slipping away, and Harma Zubeldia is the rider in orange here. he also is dropping off, and he was also holding a fairly high place overall. He was 18th in the Tour de France.
Aymar Zubeldia would hope to ride well in the Pyrenees. This is the terrain of Team Euskaltel-Euskadi. We move forward to see what sort of damage is being done here. This is Alejandro Valverde, also in difficulty. Don't look at me. Please let me do this in silence. There is Mikel Astrolosa just in front of him, and I wouldn't be surprised to see just a little bit further forward Oscar Pereiro as well.
Well, we're looking here. Don't forget that Astrolosa was dropped on the previous climb. Now he's gone. There's Pereiro, number 11, the two top boys on Case de Pont. Look at each other and say, we're in trouble here, because it's all down to Jaroslav Popovic, who was dropped on the previous climb, came back with the drinking bottles, and is now doing George Hincapie's job on the climb.
Carlos Sastre is in this group. He's doing what he's done so well since the start of the Ford, just sitting there. He's in 5th position there, just behind the yellow jersey. Cadell Evans is on the other side of the yellow jersey, riding comfortably, sitting at the back of the group. You can see Levi Leipheimer is very much in contest as well.
2 minutes. Don't forget, they're slowly but surely catching the leaders up front. That's not their target. They're trying to set for 10 to break the others. No signs of distress for Rasmussen nor Cadell Evans on the far left.
What about the Jaroslav Popovic? This is Mikel Astrolosa, started the day in 8th place in the overall classification. He wants to try and stay there for Spain if he can, and he's trying to pull himself back into this group. He may well survive, but I reckon Jaroslav Popovic is doing a phenomenal job. There is Levi Leipheimer just at the back. Popovic was dropped on the Porte de Payerne, and all of a sudden he realizes we've got a chance to win this stage.
Andres Cloden taking a drink, not looking in any trouble. He's the leader of the team now. He knows it. Watch out for Juan Soler, 219. He doesn't ride very gracefully, but he certainly flies up mountains. He can go with anything. Then somebody's accelerated. This is the adjustment. Sastra's got to get on the wheel here. Sastra is dropping to the back.
Well, the first acceleration came from Popovic, and then it was applied by Michael Bogart, who we saw going to the back of the group, then all of a sudden realizing, and it looks as if that acceleration from Michael Bogart has put Denny Menchov into trouble, because Menchov has now popped off the back.
We are down to 10 principal players in the Tour de France on the climb up to the plateau. Menchov, who said he was coming back to form in the time trial, but he would dedicate all of his help to the yellow jersey Rasmussen. That's what he's done. He's paying for the price now. This is Cloden sitting at the back, not looking as cool as he's looked for the last couple of days of this race. Sastra's number 31, number 11 is Levi Leipheimer, the white jersey is Contador, the pink jersey is Cadell Evans, and this man would worry me.
He would worry me a lot. He said, would you like a drink? My mate said, no. All right, well, let's carry on. This is unbelievable to see this rider doing this.
What's he doing?
He's phenomenal. He's
Anybody
great.
Told him he rides for Ball of World, not
Phil,
for...
I tell you what, he's never been in a situation like this. He's never been in a big bike race like this, and he just wanted to share a bottle of water with the yellow jersey. He was trying to show friendship, trying to show camaraderie, but watch it, because when we get to the summit of the climb, he might give him a little dig.
Well, I'll tell you what, that would also work psychologically against Rasmussen. This guy's feeling good, he'll think, and doesn't want his water. Now is Valverde getting back here with Pereiro, there's Arroyo trying to get back in, but this is amazing. The Case de Pont team has seemed so strong in the first week, now in all sorts of trouble. Valverde, I think, lost his chance anyway yesterday, but I'm sure he came out today hoping to climb back into the Tour de France standings.
He certainly did. He was riding with courage for Spain, but you can see almost the top end of Case de Pont have been blown away here. Oscar Pereiro there, number 11, second overall last year, but David Arroyo, who went off the mountains on one of the Alpine stages, is trying to pace the two leaders back into this race and hope they don't lose too much time before the summit. We're kind of forgetting about the race in front, because the leaders of the race, Antonio Colom, is still 2 minutes ahead of the yellow jersey group.
Well, I don't think that Cloden is going to hang on here too much longer, because he doesn't like the pace being dictated to, as Sastre also in trouble. Let's get back down to Johan.
Come on, Popo. Cloden is dropped, Allez.
See, that's why I don't like the radios. I don't agree with that, but there we are. We're now seeing him, telling him that Cloden is in trouble, so he's going to go a little bit harder and try and break him at the back of the line. Just looking here, Johan Bunil on the radio just told Popovic that Cloden has been dropped. That's why I don't like the radios, Paul, as we're now seeing Cloden unhitch at the back and Popovic drive that little bit harder. Very shortly, Popovic will be dropped, but he'll have done his job. 10 kilometres to go. We say 9.5.
Well, we say 9.5. They've come through that 10-kilometre to go point, and they're coming again, Phil, to the steeper part of this climb. It's going to kick up again to around about 8.8%. Still, this is turning out to be a very select group of riders. There you can see on the front, Popovic, Contador, Rasmussen, Cadell Evans, Kashakin, all of the big names, and popped in there just on the side there is Levi Leipheimer, still looking very comfortable and still well up there.
Let's get on the radio and tell Popovic Cloden isn't dropped, he's on the back.
Well, you know, Cloden is a strong rider. Don't ever forget he's finished second, hurting quite a bit because he crashed pretty dramatically in the time trial yesterday, but still managed to finish in third place.
Well, I thought they'd drop team time trialing from the Tour de France, but we've got one going on at the back there. And now this is the poise for the moment. Wait for the attack. His Contador is poised here. He's swung right. Rasmussen's looking around for reaction. Cadell Evans doesn't need to react yet. This is the first time, but it looks to me as though Rasmussen is being isolated now. Now it's showdown time at 9 kilometres to go, and Cloden is in the red zone once more.
And I tell you what, Alberto Contador is having a bit of a hard time trying to follow the pace being set by his own teammate, because he too is getting unhitched with Carlos Sastre.
You know, we always say it, but the Pyrenees are different to the Alps. Bodies always react differently. Levi Leipheimer says the Pyrenees is where I'm going to go. And he's in that little group now. They've got Cloden in difficulty, but he refuses to be finished off.
Well, he will not give up. He'll fight his way back into this race as much as he can. He started the day in 4th place in the overall classification, but what a performance that's being done there by the man at the front, Jaroslav Popovic. And I tell you what, Alberto Contador has come back into the group as well.
Well, Popovic is doing the ride of his life. The man who was dropped on the previous mountain came back, and he's now doing the job of a super domestique and still hanging on there. He's just hanging in, is Andreas Cloden. Even the greatest athletes suffer like they've never suffered before when they ride in the
to stay in contact with the lone leader, and I have him down at around about 1 minute and 15 seconds. Jose Ivan Gutierrez is a little bit further back, but there is the yellow jersey group right on his tail.
Yes, Gutierrez is the next to go. That leaves 2 men up front here as the motorbikes take their turn to get through. There's Cloden still trying to hold them in sight, just fighting now to limit his losses here as the pressure goes on again. I would say that the boys in that little cluster, from that cluster comes the winner of the Tour de France on Sunday week.
I don't think anybody's going to criticize you with a remark like that, because certainly they are proving to be the strongest men in the Tour here this afternoon. Denny Menchov has been a strong man, but he was a strong man for Michael Rasmussen. Rasmussen has not showed any signs at all of weakness, but Team Case d'Epargne here this afternoon with Alejandro Valverde and Oscar Pereiro have been blown out of the bike race. They are losing currently 1 minute on the yellow jersey group.
Well, if looks can speak, that's told us everything here. This man is in trouble, Valverde. Rasmussen is not in trouble. He's cool, he's riding like a great climber, but what is happening, and there was a little switch there with Carlos Sastre. What I'm trying to say, Popovic has gone. Well, what a ride he's done. He'll be slapped on the back, and now it's a move by Levi to stretch him, and look who's going. Maurizio Sola straight on the wheel, the man I believe will win the stage today, and he's marked by the yellow jersey.
Well, he accelerated immediately. Great job of work by 118 to Jaroslav Popovic, but the sad thing is you work hard like that. Contador's gone.
It's the old Discovery 1-2. Levi goes, Contador takes up the gritting of the face by Carlos Sastre, who looked to be in trouble, but he's gone. Rasmussen's answered, Cadell Evans has answered. 4 men going clear.
And Juan Maurizio Soler was grappling himself back up to the tail of these riders. Cloden now has no way at all of responding to these accelerations. Kashakin has gone too.
This, Paul, is a race of great cyclists who are throwing everything at one another here. And now they've caught, is that Chiruka they've just gone by?
They've just gone by Gutierrez very rapidly. They've
now
just caught Chiruka. He's out of the back. There's only one man in front of this group. Contador looking nervous, wants to get a lone lead if he can. He'll keep
Rasmussen.
Yep.
No, he's gone. Contador's react here. Now they've got to come. The yellow jersey is looking for time. Cadell Evans rocks and rolls. He's straight across the gap. They're splitting the 6 now. Evans joins on. Contador looking for the inside of the corner. Rasmussen knows he's got to get time.
He has to get time on everybody, and now we're looking a little bit further back. Jose Ivan Gutierrez was in the breakaway a little while ago. Now he's gone straight out of the back. This is Andrei Kashakin. He was looking comfortable a few moments ago, but now his foundations have been cracked.
When did we last see a stage of the Tour in the mountains like this? As now the rider, there's poor old Chiruka, doesn't know what the heck came past him. And it's the rider in the yellow jersey now, and Contador has mastered him. Cadell Evans is hurting, but he's hanging.
Well, he's pulling back every time the acceleration comes from Michael Rasmussen, but Rasmussen cannot get rid of the man in the white jersey, Alberto Contador. Contador is a great climber, a man who knows just how to accelerate. But a man with experience is the man who wears number 31. Carlos Sastre has seen this before. He's been here on many, many occasions, and he just lets them carry on with it and pulls himself back into the race with Levi Leipheimer and Soler.
Well, wait for the next attack from Rasmussen. This is how climbers work it here. They've eased because it didn't work, then they'll raise the acceleration again. He's lifted the tempo once more, and the second time sometimes kills them off. Contador is there. Now Rasmussen looks again. This is like a sprint on the track. They're watching each other. Rasmussen just rests. Contador still in control. So too is Evans. Leipheimer's back in. And the Colombian here would like some water. I'm not sure he's allowed anymore now.
Not allowed to take drinks on board at this stage of the game. We're looking at 6.8 kilometers to go. This man, number 219, Juan Mauricio Soler, Phil, is in all kinds of agony. He probably can't believe that he's battling it out at the stage of a Tour de France like this.
Well, it's going to be a high finisher in Paris if he keeps this riding up. He's 22nd at the moment. There's the list of the 6 riders. Add on the name of Soler down there as well, and there it is. Well, a tremendous ride. The USA flag for Levi Leipheimer almost blocking out a view of the summit of the plateau.
Well, this is Kloden and Andrei Kashakin, and Levi Leipheimer could be making a pretty good operation here this afternoon, because he started the day behind Kloden in the overall standings by around about 1 minute and 3 seconds. If he gets to the top, that much ahead of him. Now there's the move by your man Soler.
Soler has gone. They may not react yet after him because he is just a carrot and has no... He can't get yellow tonight. They're still watching each other. He sits 20 seconds, nearly 11 minutes behind Rasmussen, and that's why he may win the day. But no, Rasmussen's after him, ripping away, followed by Contador, and Evans, the limpet, is on the back.
Well, Cadell Evans cannot give these guys any gap at all. Rasmussen wants the stage here this afternoon, Phil. He wants to win in the mountains. Soler is pouring water all over himself, trying to calm and cool down those muscles of his, while Leipheimer has to respond. He really is gangly on a bike.
Well, he's terrible style. This reminds me of Robert Alban of years gone by. You know well as your teammate, Paul. He's slowed down now. They're all marking each other again. They'll let Levi back into the action. And now they'll wait and attack against Sass.
A battle of climbers, the acceleration, deceleration. I've rarely seen this kind of a battle before. But there you can see they're all waiting now for the next.
Now this time he may have it. Where is he finding the strength from?
Well, you know what? They do not really need to chase that man Soler, because he's so far down in the overall classification. But it's Contador who wants the victory this afternoon. He says, no, mate, I want the win. And Leipheimer has seen that he's not got the gap, and he says, come on, you guys want to win the stage, you go. So Rasmussen says, all right, I will.
And Sastre looks to be hanging at the back now as they continue to go. But Rasmussen comes up on Juan Mauricio Soler. The others behind are still hanging, but now Rasmussen this time tries to put it on. They've got Soler on the defensive. He needs half a kilometre to recover. He'll just have to hang there and wait and hope that they slow down again.
Well, you know what? When Barlow World were given a wild card selection into the Tour de France, I don't think the organisation...
They slowed down again. He's coming back.
I don't think the organisation knew, Phil, that they were going to get such a battle from that team. Robbie Hunter has taken a stage victory. Soler has taken a stage victory, but he's an integral integral part of the Battle of the Pyrenees this afternoon.
Well, there they are, 5, and very shortly it will be 6, because Leipheimer is climbing back into the picture. He sits 5th overall if they keep on doing that. And there goes Contador. The yellow jersey this time says to Cadell Evans, well, you chase him. He's only just behind you overall. Now there's a state of confusion.
Well, Contador, look at this. He's out of the saddle. He knows now that he's got the gap. This is what he wanted a couple of days ago when we were in the Alps. He wanted to fly free and get himself a lone lead on the way up to the climb of Tignes. And now it's up to Rasmussen. He says, I know you're dangerous, Contador. I'm coming after you. And Evans again struggling to stay on the wheel. And Leipheimer, Phil, almost got himself back into contention with those riders, but then he goes again.
Well, it's a big gamble by Evans. He's a minute 31 ahead of Contador in the standings. He can afford to let him run a little bit, and it's not the case for Rasmussen, so he's had to react. And so the first 3 riders on the classification in the Tour de France are now the first 3 riders, and Evans, I think, has cracked.
Well, he's cracked a bit. He doesn't want to push himself too much into the red zone. He could not take the accelerations of these 2 climbers. Alberto Contador and Michael Rasmussen have thrown caution to the wind, and they are going at this. Bows his head a fraction. What he's got to do, Phil, is try and recover somehow.
And
try and get himself into a situation where he can actually ride himself into his rhythm and not lose.
He's got to keep on working. He fears Cadell Evans. Cadell Evans can beat him in the time trial. He needs second. I think he needs about 3 or 4 minutes before we leave the Pyrenees over Cadell. So he's going to have to go again very shortly. But that acceleration's hurt just about everyone.
It's hurt absolutely everyone. We've kind of forgot the tête de la course, the front end of the bike race. Antonio Colom
is still there.
Now, Phil,
not
looking at a massive gap. He's got 30 seconds over these 2 riders, Michael Rasmussen and Alberto Contador. This is a magnificent battle of the climbers. We talked about the Tour de France on the flat stage, and we've got so many sprinters in it. I don't think we've ever seen so many climbers over the last few years.
We had nothing like this in the Alps. We got it in the Pyrenees. They've been waiting for what is a most difficult stretch of riding now. We get a rest day in between 3 awful days in the mountains. 2 still to come. Just around that corner now has gone the race leader. These 2 are chasing him.
Well, what you say there, Phil, is completely true. They're fighting this out as if it's the last mountain stage tomorrow.
They've had no choice. They're scared of what Evans can do in the time trial. 5 kilometers to go. 5 kilometers still to go for the leader. And they've thrown just about everything.
Colom had around about 3 minutes advantage at the start of the climb. Valverde's losing huge chunks this afternoon. So too is Andreas Kloden. But the yellow jersey group with Alberto Contador, the best young rider in this race, is only 30 seconds. Well, in fact, it's less than that. It's 23 seconds at 3 miles to
here
go.
To the Evans group now, and Leipheimer won't help because he's got a teammate in Contador ahead.
Carlos Sastre, he's known glory in the Pyrenees before. Looking over his shoulder, he flicks his wrist there to say, come and work with me, but he's not going to get any help at all from Levi Leipheimer.
No, pretty fit athlete there as we go down, back up to the front here. As we see the yellow jersey and the white jersey, the best rookie and the leader of the Tour, just getting into their sights now. The hero of the day, Antonio Colom, isn't going to see the plateau on his own. The 2 principal players are right up on him.
I think it's absolutely phenomenal the way Alberto Contador rides. He's the man who showed the most aggression here, but the yellow jersey, he knows that if he wants to win this Tour, Phil, every time and every stage that goes uphill, he's got to build on his advantage, because he will not win the final time trial. He will lose huge chunks of time. Contador now comes up and sets the pace-making, but I wonder how much longer number 192, Antonio Colom, can stay in contact with these 2 men.
Well, yes, and let's hope he can, but it's unlikely. But if he can hold them just for a while, he might get 3rd on the stage as we head up into the last 3 kilometers now. At about 2 miles still to ride, and Contador has been absolutely brilliant today. The crowd have had his name all over the road here, so they're expecting this. He had it planned.
Well, he knew that this was a climb that would suit him. He knew that he had the acceleration on the steeper slopes there. There's a bit of a gap going down to the next group on the road, and there it is. That's Carlos Sastre, Levi Leipheimer, and Juan Mauricio Soler. They are looking at around about 25 seconds.
He might claw the way. There he goes up on the inside. There'll be no acceleration. The other two are fully committed, and this man could take advantage of the slowing of the two riders at the front. It'll have to be pretty special, I think, even for him. But he's off again, because at the moment he's losing his lead he gained earlier in the King of the Mountains. It's going back to Rasmussen.
This is a man who's come to the Tour de France for the first time ever. He's never seen these mountains before, Phil, but he's absolutely not afraid of them in one little bit. Cadell Evans is 1 minute and 20 seconds down at 1 kilometre to go to the finish, so he looks as if he's going to lose his second place in the overall classification to the man lying in second place there. But this man, as you said earlier, Phil, might spoil the party for the stage victory.
If he can get up there, he might confuse them. Here's Cadell, a bit lower down the slopes. He's cracked at 1.2 kilometres here. He probably, with the bonuses, at least will lose, for the moment at least, second place overall. He's now with Andreas Kloden and Kashiki, I would think, because this has been a dual battle with everybody else out of it. There is 1 kilometre to go. Contador refuses to help the Maillot Jaune. The Maillot Jaune has got to work because he wants time.
Well, for the Maillot Jaune, Michael Rasmussen, he must ride as hard as he can to get time over everybody else in this race, because he will not ride a final time trial like the time trial he rode yesterday. Alberto Contador knows this. He's riding like a tough poker player, saying, mate, you want to win the Tour de France? Well, I want to win this stage, so you go and get as much time as you can. We are looking, Phil, at only about 20 seconds to this man who is currently in third place on the road. Juan Mauricio Soler. Yes, he does remind me of Robert Alban, a man who was my teammate in the Laraduc days in the 1980s. He cannot look good on a bike, but I tell you what, when it goes to going uphill, he knows how to do that.
Well, can he catch those two? If they slow down to gets ready for the finish, he'll be on them and he'll steal the stage. But at the moment, Rasmussen is committed. He's no choice. He's racing for time gains, particularly on Cadell Evans. So he, in effect, is having to give the stage away here to Alberto Contador. But this first day in the Pyrenees has shown us Rasmussen is a pretty solid leader of the Tour de France.
He's also learning the hard way, Phil, that when you've got the yellow jersey on your shoulders, when it comes down to decision time, you don't have any friends at all. You've got to assume control yourself. You've got to prove that you are a great champion, and that's why he has to do all of the work. 500 meters to go, and Alberto Contador is getting ready for the explosion that he hopes is going to give him the victory of the stage.
Well, Alberto Contador, the man that had the serious accident which almost cost him his life, is now looking set to get the victory. We are further down the climb here as we watch here as Carlos Sastre on his own now. So what has happened to Levi Leipheimer? As now the sprint is started here. And now it's started here now by the rider in the lead, and this is going to be a big sprint here for Rasmussen. And look at the face of Contador. Is he going to get beaten here? I don't think so, as he comes on the left here and starts to drive for home. Alberto Contador in his first Tour de France, the best rookie, gets the stage win. Not the best way to win, but he gets it and takes it from the yellow jersey, Rasmussen. Well, there we are. I'm not surprised. Discovery Channel have played their cards well today, and Contador is the champion. And now we're looking at Juan Soler coming home for third place here. And he might just about hang on to his newfound lead in the King of the Mountains, but it'll have to be a big one, because it's Leipheimer who tried to catch him on the line. We didn't see Leipheimer move, but he did, as Juan Soler comes up here to take third place. Second place has gone to Michael Rasmussen. So this has been a showdown like we haven't seen for many a day in the Tour de France, and it's only day one in the Pyrenees. Sastre coming up here, up into fifth place. Fifth place for Carlos Sastre as he hits the line. First place for Contador. Fourth place for Leipheimer. Discovery Channel probably are now the leaders. It depends where the third counter is. Now these two are the losers today. Cadell Evans coming up with Andreas Kloden. And we'll look for the clock to see what it says on the clock. 1:17 has gone. It's pretty good. He probably will lose his second place overall because there was a 20-second win bonus for Alberto Contador. And there he is, already on the phone to his folks. I just won a stage of the Tour de France. I'm now second overall in the race.
Well, Andreas Kloden today was also put into difficulty, and I think, Phil, because of that crash he had in the individual time trial yesterday. Cadell Evans, too, rode a brilliant individual time trial. That will have hurt his body as he makes his way up to the finish line. I don't think he'll try and come round Kloden here. He's happy to get to the top there. The clock stops for him at 1:52 seconds.
Yes, and add on that the 20-second bonus. This is looks like Kashiki coming up the climb here. It's been a pain. That's Colomba, in fact. Well, it's been a tough old day for everybody. Astana may have kept their team lead because we've got 3 riders home now.
This is Antonio Colom waiting to pace Andrei Kashekin across the line.
Yep, and as they come up to the line, that'll give them their 3 men home. So they may well keep their team race lead. They may even increase it because there's no third man in yet for Discovery Channel.
Well, the third man on the road is going to be Jaroslav Popovic, and the work that he did, I'm sure, Phil, by the time he gets to the finish line here, he will have lost whole chunks of time. Sorry, there he is.
Well done, Jaroslav Popovic. He's kept the team race alive as well as he comes up looking very strong. And pulling up here, Michael Bogart, who in his final Tour de France is having a great Tour de France, and also with them Mikael Astelotha, who started the day in 8th place overall.
Well, I have a feeling he might keep his 8th place overall with a ride like this. Look at the face on that man. Michael Bogart is doing a phenomenal Tour de France. It's his last year at the Tour. He's going to retire at the end of this season, and this is his great ever ride in the Tour, Phil.
Well, Paul, we haven't seen a day like this. On the way up now, 3:15 conceded for Alejandro Valverde and Oscar Pereiro at the moment. It'll be over 3.5 minutes. He's still fighting for seconds here. They still sprint it out. Every second could still count in this year's Tour de France. It's only day 1 in the Pyrenees. 2 more tough days to come, and that final time trial. I don't think we will know till that Saturday next week.
We've still got a lot of mountain climbing to go before we get to the finish, and we've still got an awful long way to get up to Paris. And of course, that individual time trial may well give us the final result. Valverde in. He's lost himself at 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
Amongst the riders who want to win the Tour de France, and the winner, of course, today, Alberto Contador. Points at his white jersey, points at Team Discovery Channel. He gets his first ever stage win in the Tour de France.